How are you today?
Good, thanks.
Good. Okay, so I'm going to gear this more towards what you're going to see with your TAVR patients when they come out. So just basic stuff. So we'll go over the code, some troubleshooting, things like that. So you'll hear things VVI, VDD, and what does that mean? So the first letter is which chamber is being paced. So you're going to see VVI with your TAVR patients. So it's going to be pacing in the ventricle, and it's going to be sensing in the ventricle. And how I remember which letter is which is P comes before S alphabetically. So that's how I remember that the first one is paced and the second one is sensed. And then I, which is inhibit. So that is, the last letter is what does it do in response to when it sees the patient's own intrinsic rhythm. So here we have, say this is a rate of 60, we have a pacing spike, that starts our clock for 60 beats a minute. That clock expires, we have another pacing spike, that starts our timer for 60 beats a minute again. On the third one, we start our clock, but before the clock expires, the patient kicks into their own rhythm, so I inhibit pacing. That starts another clock. Again, they have their own intrinsic beat before the clock expires, and continue on. So the three parameters that you're mostly going to be concerned with are the pacing rate, the output, and the sensitivity. So if you want to go on and fire up your pacemakers, which is the on button in the upper right corner, it's going to go through a boot up process.
Video over your shoulder.
And you're going to get these already on, but if you were to turn one on, you'll look, and at the top you'll see an A and a B, and under that you'll see a pace and a sense and a pace and a sense. So that tells you that this pacemaker is currently set up to pace and sense in both chambers. Underneath that you'll see your rate of 80, and the dial right next to that is how you control the rate. You'll then see the next up and down is your atrial output, and the dial next to that adjusts that, and the bottom one is your ventricular output. You're most likely going to see these come to you at VVI 30. So if you want to go ahead and take your rate down to 30.
Hold up.
And then the easiest way to get to VVI is to take your atrial output and just dial it all the way down to 0. Okay, if you notice now at the top, there's nothing on the left-hand side that says A, pacing, or sensing.
0. Yeah, because we're
all the way to
using
0.
ventricles.
Perfect. So that's how pretty much you're going to see them when they come to you. And again, here's an example. I pace, I start my clock, I have an intrinsic event, I inhibit pacing, starts my clock, that expires, and I don't have an intrinsic beat, so I pace. So the output is the other thing that you're going to be concerned with, because you want to make sure that they actually capture when you pace them. So every time you see a pacing spike, you want to see a depolarization after that, that nice wide looking thing. So typically when they're putting these temporary wires in the cath lab, they will check a stimulation threshold, which is basically the least amount of energy it takes to capture 100% of the time. So if you see at 3, we're good. We go down to 2, we're good. But if we go down to 1, we lose capture. There's spikes and no depolarization after that. So my actual threshold is 2 MA. I don't know what your protocol is, but typically you want to put your MA 3 to 5 times whatever that is, because you want to build in a safety margin. Thresholds will change, your wire can move a little bit, your patients could get hypoxic, God forbid they get acidotic or they have electrolyte imbalances. That's going to change your threshold. So it's not always going to be 2 MA necessarily. The other thing is you want to make sure that the pacemaker is seeing the patient's own intrinsic beat, because you don't want to be pacing when you don't need to. That could be dangerous. You could pace onto a T wave and send the patient into VT, so that would not be a good thing. So how I think of sensitivity is I think of it as a fence. So think of this as a fence to your next door neighbor's yard. If I have a fence 5 feet tall, and I hear a bunch of ruckus over in the neighbor's yard, but I can't see what's going on. So I'm not seeing what I need to see. But I lower my fence to 2.5 feet, and I can see over there, and I can see it's just the kids out playing. Everything's fine. I'm seeing exactly what I need to see. Then I get the bright idea is I only need a 1-foot fence, and then I lower my fence to 1 foot, and now I can see that there's like garbage and all kinds of stuff that I really don't care to see in the neighbor's yard. So now I'm seeing too much. So if you think of it that way, the taller my fence, the less I'm gonna see. Make sense? So it's kind of opposite because the lower you're setting, the more sensitive you are. You're seeing more. So here's an example of where I'm not seeing what I need to see. My fence is too high. I have a pacing spike with depolarization. That's supposed to start my clock, right? I have an intrinsic beat. That should restart my clock again, but what happens? I have a pacing spike coming through again. So I'm not seeing as much as I need to see. So I need to make this more sensitive. So in order to do that, on the bottom, first you may be locked. So unlock your pacemaker, and then on the bottom you'll see a ventricular sensitivity thing. And to make it more sensitive, what am I going to do to my number? Go up or go down? No.
More sensitive.
Am I going to raise my fence or lower my fence? Not seeing what I need to see. So do I need to
Lower it.
Lower it. Yep.
The sensitivity.
So you would lower
Can
it
you
till
see that right there? It
start
says
to see
sensitivity.
That now I'm seeing these and I'm not pacing
Oh, yeah.
after that anymore. The other thing you could see is oversensitive. You're probably not going to see this very much, but you could have something that's not rounded right, some electrical noise. So if you can see, this is my pacing rate here. So I should be seeing something here, but I'm not. So I should be pacing right there, but I'm not. So that means the pacemaker's seeing something that it shouldn't be, and it's inhibiting pacing. So that means I'm seeing too much. My fence is too low. So I need to do what with my number?
Increase the sensitivity.
Yeah. Yep. By raising the number. And again, you guys probably won't see this. This is typically, they might see this when they're in the OR if they're using cautery. Cautery can get picked up by the pacemaker, and the pacemaker thinks the noise from the cautery is actually the pacer beating. This one you potentially could see. What's going on here? I have a pacing spike. Shouldn't I be seeing this? Yeah, so I have loss of capture here. So how do I fix that? My patient's unstable, they're getting hypotensive. How do I fix that? So I'm not capturing consistently. I don't have enough energy to consistently capture the heart. So what I need to do is I need to increase my MA. So that's your first step. When I was first learning about pacing, when I worked in the ICU, they told me start here and work your way back because these are the easy things to fix. So I would just crank your MA all the way up to hopefully you get them pacing again. Remember, if you're locked, you're not going to be able to change anything. You're going to have to hit the unlock button. So this will go up to an MA of 25. Dr. Matt. And hopefully that fixes your problem. What else could be going on is maybe your connection is loose here. So you want to check your connection. Maybe your connection is loose closer to the patient. And then if all that doesn't fix your problem, then you start to worry about something's going on. Did my pacing wire dislodge? Is there something going on with the patient? Are they ischemic? Something like that. So start here because this is the easy stuff to fix, because once you get to the patient, it's not so easy to fix. The other way that you can quickly crank stuff up is if you hit this DOO button. It's going to keep your... Did I do it? Yep. So what that does, it puts it into a dual chamber pacing mode. Remember, our first letter is what's being paced. The O is what's being sensed. So O means it's not sensing, it's just gonna pace no matter what. And since I'm not sensing anything, I'm not gonna have any response to it. So notice it keeps the rate the same, but it cranks your MAs all the way up. If you were at 10, it would have gone to 25 on your ventricle. The other thing you'll notice under the indicator lights under A and V, it just says pace next to both of those. And so that's another way you know it's not in a sensing mode, because you don't see the sensing next to it. In your bottom screen, it says, hey, your asynchronous pacing. To resume, hit the arrow. So you're going to hit the green arrow, and you'll go back to synchronous pacing. Notice you have pace and sense under your A and V's at the top again. So again, your patients are going to be VVI. The easiest way, again, to get back to the VVI is to just dial your HA output all the way down. When you go back from that asynchronous mode, it's going to keep your output all the way up. So just note that. You may have to change that again. Again, not something you'll probably ever use, but you never know. You might get a curious resident who says, oh, what does this button do? So you might want to do that. As far as locking, it locks itself 60 seconds after you do something, or you can manually lock it with the lock key. If you want to turn it off, you would hit the off button. If you're locked, it's going to give you a little message that says you're locked. Unlock it. Hit the off button again, and then it says turn device off, and you would just hit the green arrow again. You will get a low battery indicator. This battery symbol will start flashing red when the batteries get low. You probably have about 2 days worth of pacing, but we don't recommend waiting that long, because you might get this patient and you have no idea when that light started flashing. Did it start flashing 2 days ago, or did it start flashing today? We do recommend that new batteries are put in with every patient. I don't know if that happens here. When the light starts flashing, we recommend changing the batteries right away. We don't recommend doing it when it's hooked to a patient, but if you do, lock it, click this out, and it will continue to pace for about 30 seconds. And that might be the broken one. It's not really working. So you do have about 30 seconds worth. Again, we don't recommend doing it that way, but it is what, sometimes you don't have access to another pacemaker. Questions? Okay. Is that what we were looking for?
Yeah.
Okay. I think we went through all the keys and everything. Good.